There are over 1 million vacant homes and office spaces around the UK, and if they sit empty for too long, they can be subject to vandalism and decay.
And with average rents continuing to rise up 7% since last year, our DIY expert Wayne Perry has been looking at a way to keep them full.
The village of Hook in Hampshire is a pretty desirable place to live. It's about an hour's commute to London, but with a villagey feel. The rental prices, like much of the UK, can be steep. But there is another more affordable way to rent a property here, and in fact, all over the UK. It's called property guardianship, where commercial buildings waiting for redevelopment are turned into temporary accommodation and then let on a short-term basis. So if you don't mind living in an empty office block or a disused church, this might just be the option for you. And it's getting more popular, as industry research suggests that applications for property guardianships are up by 60% since 2022 to over 1,000 per week. Tony Warner is an ex-Premier League goalie for the likes of Millwall, Liverpool and Fulham. He's now a coach at Reading Football Club, and I'm meeting him at the property where he's the guardian.
I've got a house in Liverpool, live up there with my family, but I work down there during the week. So I needed somewhere which was fairly cheap. This just come up on it was like a room site, and I inquired, and they just turned around and said, we've got like an open day, come down. So I thought, right, I got myself down, I think like the next day or a couple of days later, and yeah, picked out this flat.
And it's a bargain. A Guardian flat like Tony's goes for about £800 a month, a saving of around £300 per month compared with equivalent properties nearby. And that's not all. The £800 includes all bills except electricity. It was an old care home. Yeah. Does it feel like you're living in a care home?
No, not at all. Like, it just feels just like a really small, cosy flat. I thought it was too good to be true, but you know, I've lived there for a year. It's a viable option for people, like for a home.
Tony is among an estimated 10 to 15,000 people living as property guardians in the UK. But the properties on offer to guardians are varied and include former factories, schools and churches. Not ideal living spaces for everyone, but very appealing for textile designer Amy and costume designer Miriam, who need living space and studio space for work.
So we have a basement, which is a recording studio of one of our flatmates. Then we have like the ground floor where we have like a communal area, a big kitchen. And then on the first floor is basically where our studio is, our living space. And then the floor above is like 2 more flatmates.
We live in our own studio that gives us plenty of space and still live really central.
Amy and Miriam each pay £864 a month, which includes bills, to live in this former office building in the heart of London's West End. An absolute bargain, as an equivalent space in the centre goes for up to an eye-watering £7,500 a month with bills on top. But it's not just the bargain price that's appealing. If there's any issues with the property, is there anybody there to help you? Is there anyone supporting you?
If there's an issue like maintenance or a general issue, we have an app where we can report things.
It's very effortless. In comparison to previous experiences of renting in London and dealing with landlords, this is a dream. We just report something on app and it gets immediately addressed.
Do you recommend property guardianship to other people over renting?
The space you get for the money you pay is, you know, it's almost like a no-brainer as a creative. It's fantastic.
But there are some downsides. Guardian contracts can be terminated by either party with 28 days notice, whereas a normal tenancy notice period is 2 months. And the property management company can enter the property when they like, whereas a normal landlord can't enter the flat without the tenant's permission. Graham Sievers is the chair of the Property Guardian Providers Association, an industry trade body who promote best practice in the sector. Why is this beneficial to the owner of the property to have a guardian in the house?
Any vacant property becomes increasingly subject to vandalism or potential break-ins or thefts or squatting. So owners gain a sort of security of having them occupied by people.
What are my responsibilities if I was to, be a guardian of one of these properties? Do I have to do anything like patrol or make sure, it's secure?
No, it keeps the building secure just by having people living in the property.
Can a guardian decorate?
It does depend on the type of building. So if it's a building which has been waiting for a refurbishment or sometimes demolition in the long term, then yes, they'll be entitled to redecorate as they wish. It varies from location to location.
I've got a pet. Would you be able to, bring a pet in one of these guardianships?
It used to be not very common for pets to be allowed, but increasingly, particularly since COVID, I think, that's been relaxed. But yes, it can be. It does depend on the property.
With rent up 9% nationwide over the last year and applications to be guardian estimated to be around 50,000 this year alone, I'm curious why there are only 10 to 15,000 property guardians currently in the UK.
The demand is high, the supply is trickier to find, which is a pity because there are well over 600,000 empty properties, houses, which have been sat empty for 6 months or more, and tens of millions of square foot of vacant commercial spaces, which could be converted quickly and safely into property guardian units.
What do you think's stopping it from happening?
The mixture of red tape, and I think people are not aware of it.
If you're thinking about becoming a property guardian, make sure you choose a reputable property guardian company before entering into any agreement. You can find details on the Property Guardian Providers Association website. If you have any safety concerns, contact your local authority. Becoming a property guardian isn't for everyone, especially as sometimes the buildings are awkward spaces and not necessarily laid out like a traditional home, and you could be asked to leave with just 28 days notice. But if you could handle that, the savings are considerable.